What myth has been debunked many times, but people still believe in it? The guy who took the Loch Ness photo admitted like 20 years ago that it was fake. They used an old toy. He told people to their faces and people still believe in it apparently. My yoga instructor recently informed the class we would be working on grounding techniques because the earth started spinning faster than it used to, which is causing a lot of stress for everyone. Throwing rice at a wedding kills birds. I heard this one last month. Rice farmers dearly wish that eating rice would kill birds. The reason our local church states it doesn't want people throwing rice is because rice attracts birds, who then produce feathers and fesses, and makes cleaning the grounds harder for the 82-year-old groundskeeper. My guess is that's probably the reason everywhere. Oh man. Korea and their fans. An extremely surprising amount of people in Korea believe that if you sleep with your fan on, it will chop up the oxygen molecules and you will suffocate. When I say a surprising number of people, I don't mean like people in America with the moon landing, or things like that. It's a genuine fear for a lot of people. Parents will get angry at their children for doing this. I've read somewhere that part of the reason for this myth was the cultural aversion to suicide. If someone, say, hung themselves, and the family wouldn't want to reveal that it was by suicide, the doctor could just say, yup, definitely the fan. See how it blew all the air out of the room and stopped him from breathing? The myth that lightning never strikes twice in the same spot. In fact, it does. Scientists can't explain why bumblebees are able to fly. That's a myth. In the 1930s, two French scientists wrote that the fixed-wing lift equations don't seem to work for bees. All that means is that bee flight isn't fixed-wing, but there are other ways for things to fly. In 1996, scientists determined that insect wings flap so quickly that they generate vortices, which in turn provide enough lift to keep them airborne. So this myth came about because of scientists in the 1930s saying we tried one of the many ways to explain bee flight, and that didn't work. It was debunked 21 years ago, and yet it was still prominently featured in Bee Movie, and Dairy Queen Wendy's currently features the myth in an ad campaign. Left-brained people are more logical and right-brained people are more creative. That you can see the Great Wall of China from space. It's not that tall or wide, and it's grey, so it doesn't stand out. If you could view the Great Wall from space, you'd be able to see highways as well. You can get real periods while you are pregnant. Truth? Nope, you can't. Real periods specifically shed the uterine lining and everything else, including egg, etc. People would have miscarriages if they had real periods. However, people can have a fake period during pregnancy in which they bleed every month, so people think they are having periods, but in actuality they aren't. Waking sleepwalkers harms them? No, but it scares the living shit out of you. I always explain it as relaxing, and having someone sneak up behind you with a bucket of cold water. You're suddenly just aware of everything, and it's almost a physical shock. It doesn't harm, but man do I hate it. The McDonald's hot coffee lawsuit story. Really a sad story when you read the actual details. KOK.org, PG equals FACTS. Liars will avert their eyes from you. The truth is that liars are more likely to look you in the eye than a person who's honest. Actually, pretty much everything we believe about lying is wrong. People are horrible lie detectors, and what we are trained to look for, outside of law enforcement, tends to be factually wrong. Aokdranitu arashiakat kmabrik dumervtizi, idiasntarin watoridaltiers in a radar, the alni I promoting is tat the fristend lasatl at the rugged klee. The reset can be a total mzes, and you can sittle read a wealth it porbelm. Tisis qs either huam niddias not reader veil teta by isolf, but the rod is a willow. This is actually a really old hoax that still gets shown to students by some pseudo clever show-offs and no one ever questions the credibility of this text. Here is an interesting article about the origin and real science behind this. http mrccbu cam ac ukpr bridge. You're either only an introvert or extrovert. This middle-aged housewife has discovered cheap, effective home remedies and doctors hate her for it. The belief that, if the earth were just 10 feet closer or farther from the sun, it would be uninhabitable. Also, the belief that climbing a 10-foot ladder, and not burning up, would disprove this. The habitable zone is rather small in contrast to the size of the entire solar system, but that 10 feet would make a difference is hilariously wrong. In Asia, 2 theories. One is that the tongue tastes different flavors on the different sides of the tongue. Another is that about the thing about blood type being relevant to your personality. You can tell whether or not a woman is a virgin or even how much sex she has had by examining her vaginal labia. That standing too close to looking in the window of a microwave will radiate your brain or give you cancer. Really, no one mentioned this? Am I the only person who runs into these people constantly? Vikings regularly wore horns on their helmets. That Einstein had average scores on his tests in high school. He had a score of 6 on most of the subjects, which for Germany of that time was the highest score. Moon landings were faked. Almost everyone I work with is 100% convinced it is fake. Nothing I show them can convince them. Edit. I work in retail sales. We have in-depth conversations about this pretty regularly. This includes drawing diagrams and making little flags to show how you don't need wind to make a little flag flap around. Most of the arguments against it are about radiation and stuff in pictures looks fake. Holding B while the pokeball is still shaking increases the chance of successful capture. Vaccines cause autism is probably the most dangerous one. As an autistic person, it's also a real ducking insult to me that people would rather their kids be dead than autistic. Exactly. Beyond the offensiveness of ignoring the countless scientific peer-reviewed studies that have disproved this bullshit, the most offensive thing about this myth is just that these people think that autism is so awful that they would rather risk their child dying from an easily preventable disease than being somewhere on the spectrum. Chemtrails. There are still large groups of people that believe airliners are running around spraying people all over the world. The ones who believe that they are spraying mind control chemicals are my favorite. If they control your mind, then how come you're able to talk about it? The myth that being fired for something you said is always a violation of freedom of speech. I really wish people could get it through their head that the First Amendment protects you from the government, not your neighbors, boss, that guy that has a different view than you, etc. If you don't copy and paste this post, then Facebook, DeviantArt, Tumblr will delete your account. Choose your content without your permission. Introduce a feature you won't like. Apostrophe. I don't know how homeopathic remedies are a viable business in today's age. Now they even carry a federally mandated "this is snake oil" label and people still buy it. People keep acting like undercover cops have to tell you if they are cops is widely believed. Does anybody actually think this? Did anyone ever think this? I keep seeing it like it's an interesting fact when you'd need to be mentally challenged to believe it in the first place. MLMs are a sound business plan that can turn you into a successful entrepreneur. Seems like there are 100 different MLM scams these days, and you'd think people would catch on after a while. For every one person who makes it work, there are 10,000 who lose their shirt on inventory, startup costs, and fees. Please, if any of your friends ask you to buy this crap, or worse, ask you to sell it for them, smack them upside the head. I need to figure out how to start an MLM. That's where the money is. In fact, once I figure it out, I'll happily share the secrets with you, as long as you are able to bring in 3 friends to pay for my class in successfully starting a MLM. That not vaccinating your kids is safer. Science had basically eradicated many childhood diseases until the anti-vax movement became popular. The human eye can only see at 30 frames per second. That cutting a worm in half creates 2 separate worms. All you're doing is cutting a worm in half, you monster. Stuff I believed, because I didn't do the research, is being debunked by info that I'm also not doing the research on. Alpha and beta wolves. Wolf packs are usually just family units. A mated pair and their offspring who stick around for a period of time, a few years. It varies for each, while each year the mated pair has more offspring. So various age children hunting with their parents until they decide to go off and create their own family. The whole alpha beta thing came by from studying wolves in captivity, which has a completely different and forced social dynamic than the wild, and was one researcher who came up on it but everyone else latched onto. Eating a diet high in fat makes you fat. My mom believes this, and no amount of evidence will ever change her mind. That ADHD means you can't concentrate at all at any point in time. Guess what? ADHD is a badly named disorder. Also, that behavioral problems are indicative of ADHD in childhood. Boys. That using a cell phone at a gas station is going to make the whole place blow up, when in fact you can even drop your phone into gasoline and nothing will happen, unless it's a Note 7 lol. The old classic. Daddy long-legged spiders have strong enough poison to kill you, but their mouth is too small to bite. Not spider's mouth is big enough to bite fairly weak venom, not poisonous. They are venomous. The 10,000 hour theory popularized by Malcolm Gladwell